Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. I hope that you were surrounded by family, food, and fun. But we're back to talking about Saints football. And the Saints have a big matchup coming up this weekend versus the San Francisco 49ers. But we're not going to be talking about that as a topic of discussion. The main topic we're going to be discussing is head coach Sean Payton, and Sean Payton wanting to get back into the NFL, coaching on the sidelines in 2023. Now, this all comes from Jeremy Fowler, an insider for ESPN, said that Sean Payton has his eye on two jobs, and that those jobs are the Los Angeles Chargers and the Arizona Cardinals, two teams that have a lot of potential but have not been living up to it. Coach Stanley for the Chargers has not really done the things that the Chargers expect for them to do, especially since he's been a guy who has been, trying to train and develop Justin Herbert, a very talented quarterback. And then you also have Cliff Kingsbury, who came from the college ranks, coaching Arizona Cardinals. You have Kyler Murray, who was the first overall pick coming out of Oklahoma, and they haven't lived up to the hype. Last year, they went on a winning streak. They won, I think, 11 games in a row or something like that. It was something crazy like that. But, expect for them to do some things in the playoffs, and they end up getting steamrolled by the Rams. So both teams might be looking for new head coaches to give their developing quarterbacks a better chance to succeed, and also surrounding him around the talent that he needs in order for him to thrive. Now, we're seeing these type of things happen, with, the Chicago Bears, and, we see what they're done with Justin Fields. We're seeing teams, getting these coaches to try to develop these quarterbacks. And, on a lower level, in my opinion, you even see some of the improvements in Dak Prescott's play, when it comes to Mike McCartney. But, Sean Payton, we all expected Sean Payton to get back into coaching sooner rather than later. In my opinion, I don't think he ever wanted to leave coaching. He never wanted to get away from it. He definitely wanted to be in the league this year. But, of course, the whole situation that happened with the Miami Dolphins, the tampering, the Brian Flores situation, this thought it was to be a recipe for disaster. So he decided to go to television. But, you look at both of these teams and what would be the better fit. I mean, I would be remiss not to mention the Saints have something to say about it. The Saints have the rights to Sean Payton going into the 2023 season, which means that if one of these teams want to make a trade, they have to call up the New Orleans Saints. So, the topic has been what would be a good package for Sean Payton? What would be the return on a coach like Sean Payton? He is a Super Bowl winning coach. He is a coach that took a struggling franchise and made them relevant. And not to mention the Saints struggle this season has Sean Payton looking even better because now that he's gone, you got the same coaching staff that you had last year coaching this team, and they're not good enough to get this team above 500. So you combine all those things, it makes Sean Payton look like $1,000,000, and it can make a team that really wants to win even more desperate. So for people that feel like, oh, it's out of the realm of possibility that Sean Payton can't go for 2 first-round picks, I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know what you've been smoking. I really don't. Like, Sean Payton is a really great coach, and teams know if you have a great coach, then you're going to be successful more times than not. So these teams can and will give the Saints multiple first-round draft picks for Sean Payton. I don't know why people feel that way. I don't know why people feel like Sean Payton just a guy who fell off the turnip truck. Maybe it's because some people just don't look at Sean Payton like that. Some people just feel like, oh, he did cost us some games at times, being arrogant and his ego and all that kind of stuff. But around the National Football League, you don't get any better than Sean Payton. He's up there with Andy Reid and some of the best coaches that come out of this generation. So you definitely can get some first-round draft picks for Sean Payton. I mentioned in a video most recently that I feel like the best fit for Sean Payton and the best return on investment for the New Orleans Saints would be the Los Angeles Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers, to me, would be more willing to give up those first-round picks in order to acquire Sean Payton because they already feel like they have their franchise quarterback. They already feel like they got their cornerstone defensive players in Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. They already feel like they have their cornerstone wide receiver and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. And they also feel like they already have a guy just as talented who can run the football and catch the ball out of the backfield in Austin Eckler. Now, you still got some issues on the offensive line, but they're starting to improve. They feel like they already have a team that is a win-now team. And when you have teams like that, they'll be more willing to give up those first-round draft picks to do whatever it takes in order for them to be successful. It would be interesting to see Sean Payton in the AFC West going up against Andy Reid 2 times a year. I guarantee you the NFL would love that. And like I said, the whole development of Justin Herbert, people want to see Justin Herbert in the Chargers organization. They want to see Justin Herbert thrive and put in the best position to succeed. So to me, I feel like the Chargers would be a good fit. Will what I feel like would be suffice for Sean Payton? I feel like it should be 2 first-round picks, and I think the Saints need to acquire Derwin James. I feel like Derwin James would be a good fit. The fact that the Saints need safety help, even though Derwin James has had a history of being injured, he's still a guy that can fly around the field, and he's extremely talented. So that's what I feel like would be a good package for the Saints if the Los Angeles Chargers want to get Sean Payton. As far as the Arizona Cardinals, I feel like they're a little bit different, right? They got some guys that are on defense. You got, Isaiah Simmons. You got Buda Baker. I mean, you got some guys that are some young developing guys. You got Zaven Collins out there as well. You got a good linebacker group. You got a good secondary, some young guys. You got Kyler Murray on the offensive side of the ball. You also got DeAndre Hopkins out there. So you got some pieces, but I just think that when you look at Arizona and you look at Kyler Murray, I'm not saying that Kyler Murray is terrible, but I just wonder, like, how focused is he on the game of football? You constantly hear that. And I just feel like there's going to be a clashing of heads. Like we seen on Thursday night, there was a 3-and-out that happened with the Arizona Cardinals. And you seen Kyler Murray yelling at Cliff Kingsbury. I can tell you right now, Sean Payton ain't going to let that fly. And he definitely not going to want to go to a team where you have to wonder how invested is this quarterback. Now, fair or unfair, I don't want to say that is Kyler Murray's personality. I understand about sometimes the media has their eye on a guy, and sometimes they can try to assassinate the guy when it comes to the masses. But that's a question that Sean Payton would have to ask Kyler Murray. How involved are you in this team? Like how focused and how driven you are. I just think that when it comes to Kyler Murray and Justin Herbert, is really a no-brainer. Not to say that both of these guys aren't talented. I just look at Justin Herbert, and Justin Herbert is dialed in. It seems like he just cares about football. He doesn't care about the endorsement deals. He doesn't care about the spotlight. Like, if you watch this guy, like, he doesn't even like being on camera as much. Like, he's a guy that's not even on social media. He's a guy that kind of lives a very quiet life. He's about his business. And I just think that's something that Sean Payton might love and may be more attracted to versus a guy that's more outspoken and you really don't know what you're going to get when it comes to Kyler Murray. So if I was a betting man, if Sean Payton comes back into football, I think that he'll probably be calling up Mickey Loomis and telling him, I want to go to the Chargers. He's been to several of the Chargers games. He's been in a luxury box. I feel bad for Coach Stanley because you're thinking, on one hand, you're trying to coach a team, and then you got a coach that everybody wants, like in a rafter somewhere, critiquing you, and every play and every game that you lose is more closer than him actually taking your job. So I can only imagine how that feels. But that's why I feel about it. If I had to, evaluate both teams, I just feel like the Chargers would be a better fit for Sean Payton. And I think that the Saints, even though you're not getting a top 5, top 10 pick because the Chargers aren't that bad, you still can get yourself some first round picks. And like I said, if you can get a guy like Derwin James to be a part of that trade, I wouldn't be mad at it. Okay, I wouldn't be mad at it at all. Or maybe you can get somebody that's a guard or something like that, a promising young guard that's a part of the Chargers. If you want to decide to get rid of Andrews Pete and allow him to test the free agency market and not sign him back or release him or whatever. So let's see where it goes, and we'll see, man. I mean, 2023 is just around the corner, and this season will be over before you know it. And these are the type of questions that we're going to be asking, and some of the answers that we come up with are going to be based on the decision of Sean Payton. But let's go ahead and read some of your comments. I appreciate you all for being here. Let me see. DA says, man, wouldn't it be wild if Sean come back to the Saints and Tom Brady come along with him? That's not happening. I heard that on After Further Review with Matt Moscona, and even he even said that, it's out of the realm of possibility. He said like 6% or something like that. I just think that's just one of those things that they just trying to address, but it wasn't anything that you really have to look into. Look, Sean Payton don't want to be back with the Saints. It's just that simple. I don't know why people just feel like Sean Payton really just left the Saints because he was really tired. Sean Payton does not want to be the coach of the New Orleans Saints anymore. If that was the case, he would have done it. And I can understand why some people would be upset at the decision of Sean Payton. Some people feel like Sean Payton left the New Orleans Saints because he felt like, this was a franchise that the bridge was starting to burn. And, saying he said, he jumped off the bridge before, like any cinders hit his body. I can understand why people would be upset about that. But at the end of the day, if he doesn't want to coach the New Orleans Saints anymore, it's probably best for you to get something in return for, how great of a coach he is. But I think people looking for Sean Payton to return, I just think that's wishful thinking. And I don't think it's going to happen. Well, all our players be back from injury. Who's coming back? Well, don't know who's coming back, but you had guys at practice that wasn't there for the last couple of weeks. You had Marshawn Lattimore, who was here, who was there at practice. You had Bradley Roby that was back at practice. So you got some guys that were coming back. I don't know how effective that's going to be, like down the stretch, or if they're even playing in the game on Sunday. But just to know that those guys are practicing and being back in the lineup, it can be much better for the Saints to try to make a run at it. Do I feel like the Saints are going to make a run at it? No. But having those guys on the field and having those guys willing to come back, that just shows you how much they love the team and how they're committed to the team, even in a down year like this one. Wallace says, OG, what players is coming back off of injury to play in the Sunday game? Let's see, first round pick and a player worth at least a second round pick or a high third. Yeah, that's why I said. I said, you get yourself. I feel like it's worth 2 first round picks. Like seriously, and I think they're going to be willing to give that up because here's the thing: the Saints don't have a first round pick this coming draft, right? So if they can get the Chargers first round pick to acquire Sean Payton, you get yourself back in the first round. You can get yourself like, a pass rusher, or you can even get a quarterback, right? I feel like the quarterback that can be there for the New Orleans Saints that has a lot of upside would be Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker, because he tore his ACL, I just feel like teams aren't going to be, trying to draft him in the first round. If they do, it's probably going to be because they already got an established quarterback already. But I feel like he might fall to the second round. And if the Saints play the way they've been playing, it's going to be an early second round, so you can acquire a guy like Hendon Hooker. But in the first round, you can get yourself, a quality pass rusher, a guy that has the upside that you're looking for, the speed that you're looking for, and a guy that can be a terror, coming off that edge. You look at guys like Payton Turner, Marcus Davenport, God bless those brothers, but they have not lived up to the hype. And then you have to mention Cam Jordan getting up there in age. Look, I'm not expecting Cam Jordan to have double-digit sacks every single year late in his 30s like that. And I just feel like what we're looking for with Cam, we should have been getting with Marcus Davenport and Payton Turner, and you haven't. So I just think that it's best for you to go in a different direction. Maybe get like one of those pass rushers that kind of fit that mold, like a TJ Watt. Some of the things Caden Ellis has been doing. Maybe change the defense more to a more base defense where guys can pin their ears down and try to rush the quarterback. I feel like that would be a good fit. As far as next year, I think the Chargers will be willing to give you another first round pick because they automatically feel that if Sean Payton comes aboard, they're going to be a playoff team. So if you're in the playoffs and you make a deep run, you're picking around 27 or 28, right? So that's more of a second round pick more so than a first round pick that would be given to the New Orleans Saints. So we seen this happen a couple years ago when it came to Davenport. That was the Saints' way of thinking when they moved up to get Marcus Davenport when they made the trade with the Packers. So I think that the Saints are going to be looking at it in that light. I mean, well, not the Saints, but the Chargers may be looking at it in that light. So they'll be willing to give up 2 first rounders for Sean Payton. And like I said, if you're talking about a player, I'm looking no further. I'm looking no further than Derwin James. Derwin James is a guy that I feel like will give the Saints a spark, a shot in the arm. And I just think that the guy's a leader and he's a really good safety. So we know the Saints have been, needing some safety help. You can, see the way they've been playing over the, last, few weeks. The safety position is something that the Saints need to address. Now, by all means, I still feel like you need to get a guy in the draft as safety that you like. I mean, the Saints have been doing a really good job at drafting safeties. So I think that if you can get Derwin James and maybe get yourself another young safety that's in the draft, maybe like in the third round or something like that, I think that you'll be fine. And I don't feel bad about saying that because we seen that the Saints have gotten guys late in rounds and they worked out. I've seen people undervaluing Payton trade stock greatly. I think unbiased fair trade would be 2 firsts and either a second or third. You can't make a top 5 list of coaches in the past 10 years without him. Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people looking at the way that he left, like, okay, the Saints didn't make the playoffs. And some people, once again, they just think that, they're probably upset at Sean Payton for leaving in the first place. But the reality is the dude is a really, really, really good coach. And as much as people might, look at Sean Payton in a certain way, man, Sean Payton is one of the most recognizable and one of the most respected head coaches in the NFL. And teams will move heaven and earth in order to acquire him. I mean, it's just that simple. We seen a couple of years ago, John Gruden, who was color commentating on Monday Night Football, got a 10-year deal. 10-year, $100 million deal from the Las Vegas Raiders, right? And in my opinion, I feel like Sean Payton is a better coach than John Gruden is. That's just my humble opinion. So I just think that some people are, like you said, are devaluing what Sean Payton means to a team and how him coming into an organization with his, meticulous personality, his way of being able to get the best out of offensive players. Teams are going to be running to try to get that type of guy in their organization. So if anybody that thinks that, the Saints aren't going to get 2 first-round picks or they can't get 2 first-round picks for Sean Payton, I just think you're sadly mistaken. And I do think that you're undervaluing what Sean Payton actually means around the National Football League. Maybe because he's been here so long and you've seen some highs and you've seen some lows. But guess what, man? When he won that Super Bowl and people knew what the New Orleans Saints have been about since their inception, that changed a lot of minds of people when it comes to this team, and it has everything to do with Sean Payton. So there you go. Saints are not letting Derwin James go. That's their cornerstone on defense. Look, I've seen this movie before. You can say that all you want to, but to get a coach, like think about this, right? All right, Derwin James has been in the league, I want to say about 6 years, 6, maybe even 7 years, right? So how long do you think that Derwin James is going to give you that level of production versus Sean Payton giving you winning seasons? Who do you think is going to be able to be, sustain longer? I say Sean Payton. You're going to be able to sustain success more consistently with Sean Payton than you would with Derwin James. So Derwin James is a quality safety. But at the same time, you can also look at his history, man. He's missed, I want to say, two seasons, right? Like with injuries. So, but he just starting to get on track and getting back, to being who he once was before the injuries. So I just think that if you think that Sean Payton, if you think that the Chargers wouldn't be willing to give up Derwin James for Sean Payton, I feel once again that you're mistaken. Like, these teams want to win consistently. And I don't know why people just don't understand this. They look at these players as interchangeable. Like, it's not, they understand that some of these guys are more talented than others, but to think that, you can't find another safety that can come in, that can give you production, it may not be on the level of Derwin James, or heck, it might even be. Depends on who you get. If you think that won't be, out the realm of possibility, I don't know what to tell you. And then also, you have to take this into consideration also. There's a safety out there that's playing really well, and his name is C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And C.J. Gardner-Johnson is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. So Philadelphia, if he doesn't want to sign back with Philadelphia, who's to say that if Sean Payton goes to the Chargers, that he won't bring C.J. Gardner-Johnson with him? I'm just saying. I mean, we know that he loves C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He loves his attitude. He loves the way that he plays. And I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have got traded if Sean Payton was still the head coach. So just to say, we're going to get rid of Derwin James, once again, there's a guy out in Philadelphia that's leading the league in interceptions right now named C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who is going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of this season, and he can go anywhere that he wants to go. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that he can end up in Los Angeles and being a safety with Sean Payton as his head coach. I'm just putting it out there. So there's that. Good morning, TJ and the Who Dat Nation. Hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, man. I mean, I enjoyed Thanksgiving. I spent most of the afternoon putting up Christmas lights, and I'm still not done. But yeah, I had a really good time, man. I had a really good time, really good Thanksgiving. And it was just me, Paxton, and my wife. Cheap braided to New Orleans, no thank you, or even better, cue to Bishop Bowinkle. Yeah, I just think that's out of the realm of possibility.
Hell no, to the no, 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 hell to the no.
Sean Payton left us never to return. Sean Payton can come, but Brady can stay where he at. Why you think Dennis Allen don't want to start Jameis Winston? I really don't know. I mean, I just think that maybe Jameis Winston is hurt. Um, and maybe he's having conversations with the doctors and they just feel like it's not in the best interest to let him play, or it's just the fact that maybe he has more confidence in Andy Dalton than he does in Jameis Winston. I mean, it's just that simple. Like I just think that Dennis Allen likes Andy Dalton a lot. I think that he has a level of respect for him. I think that the conservative approach that Andy Dalton plays with is the same type of conservative approach that Dennis Allen coaches with. I just think that Dennis Allen feels like, Jameis is a little bit of a different book versus Andy Dalton. And I just think that maybe he feel like he's more coachable. And that may be unfair, but that's just the way that maybe Dennis Allen is thinking when it comes to Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to keep it a buck. We can put as much analytics as we want to up there. I like both guys, but I don't see too much of a difference between both of these guys. I just don't. I don't feel like neither one of these guys, unfortunately, are going to be the future of the franchise. I don't think that the Saints look at Jameis Winston as the franchise quarterback, and I think that we're missing a very important element when it comes to important decisions like this. I'm telling y'all, like we talking about Dennis Allen, but we don't look at these players that are in the leadership roles on his team. I'm pretty sure when Dennis Allen made this decision, he talked to those leaders that are on the team and asked them what they thought about it. I mean, from Alvin Kamara, from Cam Jordan, from Mario Davis, Ryan Ramczyk, like these are the guys he probably talked to and probably asked them what you think, because when he made that decision, he knew that he was going to have to get the locker room on board, because there's nothing that divides the locker room more than a quarterback controversy. So I'm pretty sure he had these conversations with these guys and they probably gave him their opinion. I'm pretty sure it wasn't, his final decision wasn't based on what they told him, but I'm pretty sure like the conversations kind of steered him in the right direction. So I think that when we look at it as fans, like why he ain't playing, maybe you need to look at some of these players too and wonder to yourself, like, maybe they had something to do with it, because right after they decided to make the decision to go with Andy Dalton as a full-time starter, it didn't seem like Alvin Kamara was too upset about it. So, and we know that Alvin Kamara is one of the most, if not the most important offensive weapon the Saints have. So I know we want to get mad at Dennis Allen, but maybe we need to look at some of these players too and realize that maybe these players feel like the Saints need to go in another direction as well. The landlord, thank you very much for the $2. Says Sean is coaching the Vikings next year, right, TJ? Nah, I don't see that happening. I mean, Kevin McConnell is doing an outstanding job. They only lost 2 games this entire season, so there's no need for them to get another coach, But look, if Kevin McConnell was playing like slow, was coaching like slow, and the Vikings decided to move on from him, that would have been a spot for him. I can see him wanting to go to Minnesota. The fact that fans are upset that Sean left shows his worth. Think about it. Would you really care if he was leaving, if he was trash? Let's not let emotions cloud our judgment. Well, look, like I said, Sean Payton is one of the most important head coaches of this generation. Like you can't tell the story of the modern day NFL about without mentioning Sean Payton. It's just that simple. Like I said, it's amazing. Like Sean, to Saints fans, sometimes I feel like this, right? Sean Payton reminds me of a guy who grew up in a certain neighborhood, right? And everybody know him. You grew up around him, everybody knows him, and all of a sudden that guy leaves and then he comes back, right? Let's just take Thanksgiving, for example. Like you have people that live in neighborhoods, they leave, they come back for Thanksgiving. They might have like a level of success. They might be running a Fortune 500 company. They might, just be successful in some capacity. But when they come back to the neighborhood, it's like, oh man, that's just old such and such. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, man, we grew up together. So no matter if you stepping out that Phantom, no matter if you stepping out that, that Bentley truck, no matter, in the eyes of everybody else, there's really nothing that special about you, no matter how successful you have become. That's kind of the same way with Sean Payton. Sean Payton has been around this team for so long. It's like we take that for granted. And you're not looking at like how other people may look at him because you looked at him in a certain way for the last 15 years. But make no mistake about it, Sean Payton is one of the best in the eyes of the masses, the best head coach in NFL football. And there's the team that will move heaven and earth and do anything they can in order to put him on the sidelines to coach their team. It's that simple. So I think you have to look at that. We can talk about, oh, he quit. We can talk about, oh, he didn't want to coach us no more. Like, I mean, there's nothing we can do about that except try to get something, get a return on investment. Derwin James, 26 years old, 2018 draft class. Yeah, okay, so that's 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay, so 5 years he's been in the league. I say about 6 or 7. It just felt like he's been in the league as long. But like I said before, that is not out of the realm of possibility that Derwin James can be a part of that trade. We all love Sean Payton, but there's other competent coaches out there. The first good relationship with a person is always the hardest one to move on from. There are plenty of fish in the sea. Exactly. I just think it's a waste of time if you think, oh, Sean Payton want to come back and coach the Saints. I don't believe that. It's not about the quarterback. DA needs to blame Jameis Winston because his D is lacking, which is at the bottom part of 25. Well, look, I don't know what it is. I really don't. I don't know why he decided not to go and allow Jameis Winston to play. I can't answer that question. And to be quite honest with you, I just feel like it's just a waste of time. He's going to do what he wants to do at the end of the day. I don't fall into those conspiracies talking about he a black quarterback. I feel like that's a reach, because I don't understand that. Like I don't understand like why people just feel like this is an African American thing. It is not. It's not. Like if the Saints never had a black quarterback, then maybe you'll have some validity behind that. But when I'm watching guys like J.T. Barrett and Teddy Bridgewater, the Saints signed Jameis Winston, Aaron Brooks before Drew Brees came along, Jeff Blake and Aaron Brooks on the same team at the same time. It's just hard for me to accept the fact that, because he a black man. Like, nah, I don't feel that way. Once again, I'm going to continue to say this. This is one of the main reasons why when blatant racism comes out, people just kind of tone it out, because we always, in some cases, always waving the racism flag in the faces of the masses, even when it's not. Sometimes guys don't get the job because they're not qualified, or a guy is more qualified. So I don't care what anybody says. Like, if there are times when racism does show up, but this isn't one of those cases. I just think that Jameis Winston's history has a lot to do with his decision not to put him on the field. The fact that you really don't have a guy like Sean Payton that can kind of reel him in when he does make mistakes. I think that he's looking at the fact that, he does turn the ball over. I think he's looking at the fact that when he was playing, he got sacked, almost like double-digit times early in the season. I think he's looking at all these things. And then on top of that, I think in some ways he's actually protecting them, because the offensive line of the New Orleans Saints isn't very good right now. You got a bunch of guys that are on the team right now that's backups playing. So why would you want to go put him out there and mess up his back even worse, or mess up his foot even worse? Him trying to scramble out of the pocket, or him taking a hit from a guy like Aaron Donald in that Los Angeles Rams defense. And better yet, coming up this week against the 49ers, that's even worse. So I think there's a lot of elements into it, but like, just call me naive. but I don't think him being a black quarterback has anything to do with it. And I just think that that's kind of, I don't know, man. We got to be careful about when we start just throwing a race card out here. Once again, I feel like that's one of the main reasons why, when certain things come up, people just kind of tune it out. Because, if it comes down to black and white, it always seems to involve racism for some apparent reason. The value been showing Payton for last year's record is insane logic to me. He literally turned the Saints from one of the worst teams in the league to the second most winning recent franchise behind the Chiefs. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like anybody should be devaluing Sean Payton. Like, that's insane. That's insane. Like, you can get 2 first-round draft picks for a guy with that type of coaching talent. You can't tell me he better than Jameis Winston. I'm not saying that he better than Jameis Winston, but I guess when it comes to like reeling them in, and like I said, his conservative approach, I feel like DA feel like that's the better fit for him. So I'm not saying, I ain't saying they ain't better. I feel like this. Like, I think people making it seem like they're leaps and bounds better than one another. Like, they both struggle in certain, on certain things, right? I feel like if you put both of these guys together, you got yourself a really decent quarterback. So it's not like, oh, Jameis Winston is leaps and bounds better than Andy Dalton. He's not. Like, he has better arm talent than Andy Dalton, but I feel like Andy Dalton is a better decision maker, and more times than not. I just think that both of these guys have struggles. Both of these guys, like lack certain things. So it's almost like, to me, it's like the Spider-Man meme. Like, the Spider-Man pointing back at the Spider-Man. I don't feel like, oh, Jameis Winston come in, he going to throw for 400 yards and 6 touchdowns every game. I feel like some of the same things that are occurring with this team with Andy Dalton is going to occur with Jameis Winston. I don't feel like neither one of these guys are just leaps and bounds better than the other. I just don't. DA did the same thing with Terrell probably after injury, despite losing the rest of the games with the Raiders. DA stayed with a white quarterback. Okay. All right. We gonna make it. DA is a racist. So here's the thing. Why are we still watching this team? If Dennis Allen is such a racist and the Saints organization are such a racist at the quarterback position, why are you still supporting the team? As a black, I don't know if you're black or not, I don't know. But anybody that's throwing that out there, why are you still supporting the team? That's all I want to know. If this team, if you have convinced yourself that Jameis Winston sitting down is because he's a black quarterback, why are you still supporting the team? That's all I want to know. Like, it's just that simple. I am not going to support. I am not going to support any organization or any like restaurant or any business that has proven to me or I feel is biased or prejudice in any way. So my thing about it is, for all those people out there that's throwing this out here, why are you still Saints fans? Like, seriously. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, we shouldn't even be having a show right now if we feel that the reason why Jameis Winston isn't quarterbacking his team is just solely because he's a black quarterback and Andy Dalton is a white quarterback, and that's the reason. That's the way things are. Like, why are we here? I don't feel like that's just one of these things. I just don't. I don't. Like, I just think that when you look at Dennis Allen's conservative approach, the way that he coaches, like, man, come on, man. Look, the Saints don't really go for it on fourth down. They don't really, like, do anything that you consider a high risk. I mean, Andy Dalton is the antithesis of what that is. I say this every single week. Andy Dalton doesn't play to win. He plays so he can go out there and be the starting quarterback the next week. Like, that's the way that, in my opinion, Dennis Allen coaches. Dennis Allen coaches so he can be the coach next week. So why wouldn't he want to get a guy who has his same similar mind frame? And especially like since everybody is ready to, be a big unruly mob when it comes to Dennis Allen. Like at least, okay, if I'm gonna get fired, I'm gonna do it my way. So I have no problem with that. I don't think that it has anything to do with Jameis Winston being a black quarterback. And like I said, I mean, look, should Jameis play? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like if he's well enough to play, like let him play. But you ain't gonna convince me that this is about him being a black quarterback. I'm just call me naive. Jerry Jones just got called out. Maybe there's a reason there are no black owners. Like, okay, so let me all right. Let me get this straight. All right, so I don't know some of y'all out here. Y'all think about some of these older white guys. You know what I'm saying? Like that there's been these owners. Now, come on. Jerry Jones is a is a owner who's about 80 some years old, who went to the University of Arkansas that was located in the SEC. I mean, if we want to get technical with it, LSU was racist. I know y'all remember about the University of Alabama kicking that girl up out of the school, right? Ole Miss. I mean, do I need to talk to y'all about James Meredith, right? When he integrated Ole Miss, do I need to talk to y'all about that? So all I'm saying is, for you to believe that more times than not, a 80-plus-year-old man at one particular time didn't call a black person an N-word or didn't, refer to them as colored during the time of Jim Crow's, during the time of segregation, like you sadly mistaken. I mean, to me, it would have been a shock if you didn't find anything on Jerry Jones growing up in Arkansas and not having that under him. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just the way the world was at that particular time. Like I'm just being real. Like there are certain languages and there are certain things and certain practices that happen during that time that's not tolerated today. And if you look at what happened in 1955 through 2022 eyes, of course you're gonna get upset. The verbiage and the language. I'll give you a prime example. When I look at my birth certificate, right? When you look at it, it said gender, male, race, black. My mom was born, in the 60s. Sorry, mom. I'm just saying this to use an example. If you look at my mom's birth certificate, it says colored. Would they do that today? No. It's just certain languages, certain things that they did. Now, is that an excuse? No. But I mean, a person born in 1800, do you expect for them to use a Mac computer? Like, no. It's just the way the world was at that particular time. I cannot look, when people do stuff like that, and the world starts to evolve and the world starts to change and you still on that stuff, then okay, man, shame on you. But come on, man, like that's just what's the world back then. It's I hate to say it like that, but that's just the way that it was. Now, if Jerry Jones was still doing these type of things and he didn't learn from it, and it like if you give me a tape from, like 2005, 2006, he up there just using the N-word like it's going out of style, or him talking about some of his, players that are African American, or some of his players, that may be another, color, then I would say, okay, man, like get this dude up out of here. But bringing up something that happened in, during the time when he was in Arkansas, like, come on, man. I can't get down with that. Nah, like I said, it's hard. If you're looking at 1955 points of view in 2022, like you just trying to get mad. Y'all brothers in this chat. He needs to go. Never won 2 games in a row his whole career. I agree with that. We're on board with the Dennis Allen thing. He played 1 game and was injured and never saw the field after that injury. I want a quarterback who is above average and great. TJ, let's talk about the entire SEC just to clear their heads for a moment. That's what I'm saying, Jerry. Like we up here cheering for LSU. Do y'all understand that an African American couldn't get, you know what I'm saying, to Tiger Stadium during the 1950s, 1960s? Like in 1960, you know, like Ross Burnett, you know, Ole Miss played in Jackson, Mississippi. You know, you might well just had that as a Klan meeting. Like you had like all these teams that we cheer for and we love, and all these guys that come out of these schools. At one particular time, there was a chance if you're black, you want to get a chance to even be close to that school. So, like I said, if we want to get technical about what guys used to do back then, why we chant, like honestly, why would anybody want to be a Washington Commanders or a Redskin fan? Why would anybody want to be an LSU fan or Alabama fan? I mean, that's just how the world was. If somebody is doing this in modern times and they still, like I said, if they still own that stuff, then yeah, call their racist behinds out. But if somebody living in 1950, they grew up, you know, segregation this, segregation that, color this, N-word that, like, man, I don't know. I just I can't, like, I don't know. I don't understand how people could get why. I don't understand why people get mad when they look at stuff from 1950 something and they be like, man, like that's the way the world was at that time. It don't make it right, but that's just the way the world was. Who that fam? What I miss, TJ? Josh, yes, unfortunately. Let's see. I think anything short of a deep playoff run, Miss Gale is letting that guy walk. I don't know. I think the more the team responds to him, then I think that that's going to give them the right to bring him back. Like if they would have got blew out against the Rams at home, I think that his job probably would have been in jeopardy. I think as long as he can get the locker room to respond, I think he's going to continue to have a job. Facts. And I stand Baton Rouge. It's still some shady racist stuff that goes on, but y'all still yell "Go Tigers." So let's not attack Jerry for what he did when it was common. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's the way the world was at the time. Like that's just the way the world was. Like it's unfortunate, but once again, it's just how the world was. I was watching something on Netflix, man. I apologize, but I'm saying this to make a point. I was watching something on Netflix, and it was, some of y'all probably seen it. It was about this guy who ended up murdering this guy. You know, they were appeared on a Jenny Jones show. Some of y'all probably know what Jenny Jones is. They appeared on the Jenny Jones show. One of the guys brought the other guy onto the show. Hey, buddy, how you doing? All right, I'm doing okay. Daddy trying to explain the story here. But anyway, he went to the Jenny Jones show, and one of the guys was, you know, a homosexual, and he brought the guy on the show to tell him that he liked him. But what happened was he ended up like killing the guy because he brought him on to the show. This happened in 1995. Like some of the things, you know, that happen within the LGBTQ community now, like looking at it in 95, like, and getting mad about it, like really didn't make sense, because we know like the way the world was at the time is completely different, and you know, about things that we accept now. So they had a talking head that was on there that was a part of the community, and it was talking about how, you know, they were upset about it. I'm like, but that's the way the world was at the time. Like if people are still doing these things now, all the things that we know, then I can understand you getting upset. But getting upset and talking about what happened in 1995 when things were completely different is like, why are you getting yourself worked up and upset about that? I just don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. But hey, you know, but getting this whole Jerry Jones situation, getting mad about that, talking about, oh man, he a racist. Like, he said this back in 1950. Like, come on, man. As long as the team still fights for him, then he will get he can go 6-11 or 7-10. They're going to use the injury excuse to get him a quarterback and keep him. I agree. Were people not mad at Bill Cosby for what he did in the 60s and 70s though? No, they were not. No, they were not. There's a reason why Bill Cosby went to jail in 2015, 2016. That's why. Because, like I said, the world was different back then. And certain things when it comes to women's rights, when it came to black rights, Hispanic rights, Asian rights, all these things were different. All these things were different. Like some of the comedy that we listen to and watch right now, like some of these things would not be socially acceptable in 2022. And we know it. So why would we get mad at something that happened in 1983? If somebody said something in 1983, why are we still getting mad in 2022? I have not a clue. This world still have hate and prejudice. Come a long way to live in it. That's the way it is. It will never change. I agree with that. I agree with that. There are some people, no matter what happened, they'll have these levels of prejudice. Like, and don't get me wrong, there's some people out here that got that mind frame, right? They don't want a guy like Jameis Winston to be their quarterback because he is black. I'm just saying, like there's some cases, like I'm not that naive to say, oh, somebody, is they have their talking points based on the color of Jameis Winston's skin. Like you can tell in some ways, like especially like when their logic and their thoughts don't make sense, right? About him smiling on the sidelines, of him like dancing on the sidelines, like that has absolutely nothing to do with it. Like little nuggets like that, I feel like there's some prejudices behind that, but like I'm not saying that there isn't levels of prejudice, but I'm just saying that's not the deciding factor why he's not there right now. I don't believe that, and it's hard for me to believe that. Hart says playoffs at this point is a long shot, but anything over 500 record has a chance to come back. Attendance at the Superdome has dropped. They won't let things stay the same when it's affecting money. I'm gonna be honest with you. The morale when it comes to this team is very, very low. The morale when it comes to the confidence in and head coach Dennis Allen is very, very low, and people are well within their rights to feel that way because if I've been eating filet mignon and I'm saying the best quality steaks, and I've been going to these nice restaurants and stuff like that, and all of a sudden like you telling me I can't go here no more, like, man, wait a minute, you know what I'm saying? I didn't what they said, I didn't wine and dine with kings and queens, and you want me to go sleep in the alley and dine on pork and beans? Like, nah, man. Nah, no, I'm good on that. I'm good on the pork and beans. You know what I'm saying? I've been whining and dining. So, I can understand why people would be upset with that, and be frustrated. But so they're going to have to do something. They're going to have to do something, man. Let's see. Today now, it's still a big difference world across the bridge from Southern campus and LSU campus. I'm just saying. Look, I mean, I've heard about that. I've heard about that from a lot of people. Shouts out to a good friend of mine, Glenn Bell. And I went to high school with him. He played safety for Southern, like during the time we were in college. And he's an Alabama fan. I always ask him, like, why are you an LSU fan? He was like, man, if you lived in Baton Rouge, how they treat people and stuff like that, and it just rubbed me the wrong way. So I was like, okay, I can't argue with that, bro. So I mean, I've heard situations like that, but yeah, man. I mean, if we want to get technical about it and have this level of outrage, let's not pick and choose what we want to be outraged about. You can get a ticket for the Rams game last week for $20. That's crazy. I know, man. Very small amount think that way. Most Saints fans just want someone that can win, and we don't look at color. Well, like I said, I mean, look, I ain't out here trying to do on no analytical thing. I'm not. But I just think that for us to just feel like, just because I'm not like that, that doesn't mean that other people aren't like that. Like I'm just being real. Like Saints, I know that I understand what you're saying, but you know, you can't speak for everybody. There are, what I'm saying, some people out there that feel that way. I don't know the percentages, and I'm not getting into it like that because that's when I feel like you start to like really get yourself in trouble. I'm saying that there are some people that feel that way, and there's nothing you can do to change that. Now, if you're not like that, I'm glad that you're not. But you know, we tend to look at ourselves and how we treat like human beings, like how we talk to them, how we interact with them. We, like, look at ourselves and be like, yeah, the world ain't like that because you are a representative of the world. But there are people out there like that, and we have to acknowledge that, but at the end of the day, once I'm gonna say it again, I don't feel like it has anything to do with the quarterback change. Like the old days, people come to see the new draft picks winning, doesn't matter. Basically, yeah, basically. Sis, Kansas Jayhawks better than LSU. How you come mentioning Bill Self? We talking about Bill Self? What y'all talking about? Covering your eyes doesn't make it all go away. Why are the prisons filled with our people? There are plenty of white criminals. It's not equal. I mean, never, yes, like there are, you know, there are a high percentage of minorities in prisons. Yes, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I don't feel like dad had anything to like. I don't think Dennis Allen is looking at the prison statistics and being like, "Whoo, boy, can't have Jameis my quarterback." Like like there's two. It's two different, what I'm saying, things that we're talking about here. Yes, there are racist practices that are out here, levels of prejudices that are out here. Yes, that affect society, but just not in the case of the quarterback situation. I want to make sure that there's one side and then there's the other side. I just want to make that very, very clear. Facts, TJ. I was just talking to someone, and this even on Shannon Sharp's podcast segment, entertainer was like, "Kings of comedy wouldn't be accepted into today's world. Freedom of speech is limited." Yeah, I mean, some of the things that we do, some of the practices that we did back in the 90s and all that kind of stuff, you know, it won't be accepted today. I mean, it just wouldn't. Yeah, but they got mad over something from back then with Bill. I mean, but yeah, but that's what I'm saying though. I still stand by what I'm saying. You like the whole Jared Jones situation. I'm trying to put this in sports context. The whole Jared Jones situation, it happened during a time where that stuff was just about as regular as you putting on a shirt and a pair of pants. I mean, that's just a man. Some of us are fortunate not to have lived in that world. But when I have conversations with my grandparents who grew up in Mississippi, I remember like my grandfather talking about like he wanted to get some money and he knocked on this lady's door who was a white lady. He knocked on the door, asked her did she want him to cut the grass, and she got upset, like really upset, talking about what's wrong with you knocking on my front door, wanted him to knock on the back door, right? You know what I'm saying? But if you have a son right now, go knock on somebody's door that's white and be like, man, who you think you are knocking on my front door? Why you don't knock at the back? Man, every news cycle, CNN, MSNBC, all these people be trying to talk about how blatant that racism was. I mean, it'll go viral. I mean, that's just the world that we live in. Like we look at some of these practices from back then and we act as if we had a time machine or something like that. We can't change the way that people thought back then. What we can do is we can change our behavior in modern time and apply it and adjust it. So if you're still on that 1955 BS, again, still, I mean, in 2022, then yeah, you know what I'm saying? Get your racist tail up out of here. But trying to bring up something that happened in the 50s when that type of behavior was like socially acceptable, and more times than not that was being instilled inside of you as a white man or a white woman. Like, it was instilled inside of you to have this superiority complex when it comes to people of color. But you better not have it in modern day society, because ain't nobody better than me. I don't care what color you is. All right. So, but yeah, there's that. He's definitely coming back to the Saints. Watch. You gonna keep on watching, my friend. The Jayhawks in the SEC are the swag. Kansas Jayhawks ain't they in the Big 12? In Big 12, ain't they? Dennis Allen does not like Jameis Winston because of the 30 for 30s, and that's it. I can't confirm that. Yeah, I can't confirm that. I don't know why, but I think it has something to do with it. I will agree with you on that. TJ, you do know that there's a difference between what I don't know what we talking about here, man. I don't know what we talking about here. We're gonna move on. DA should be worried about being ranked 25th on D, 31st in turnovers and 31st in creating interceptions. Let's see. What happened to Justin Evans and PJ Williams? Haven't seen them on the field lately. Yeah, I think PJ been dealing with injuries, and Justin Evans hasn't been playing well. We still win the division. Some players coming back, 49ers game, some Bucks game, and everybody after the bye. Man, Saints ain't winning nothing, bro. they ain't winning nothing. Now, if they do, I will gladly come on here and apologize, but they ain't winning nothing. 2 first rounders, Derwin James and another player. Saints, however, give the ball to your playmakers. I don't care who quarterback is at this point. White, black, orange, just play football. Man, you ain't lying. Bill had rape, well, I can't say that. The R word accusations. Jerry Jones called someone the N word on the South when it was legal to do it. Unfortunately for Bill, that's the statute of limitations for the R word, just time zone, bro. Look, this whole Time's Up Me Too movement that they had during that time, you know, they was cracking down on everybody. You know what I'm saying? They got Epstein up out of here. They got Bill Cosby up out of here. What's the Harvey Weinstein got him up out of here. You know, like there was a time when they were just going back, and the gatekeepers of Hollywood, and Bill Cosby was one of them. You know, Bill Cosby was one of those gatekeepers of Hollywood that you know, that we were talking about. And you know, he just kind of, you know, they didn't care. They didn't care if it was 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. You know, they wanted them up out of there. But yes, you know, like, yeah. Bill Cosby broke the law. Segregation, racism, and discrimination was legal in accordance with the Jim Crow laws back in the day. Today, it is not. Yeah, I mean, but even at the same time, like, yes, Bill Cosby broke the law, and like I want to make this very, very clear. I'm not condoning this, but what I'm saying is the practices that they had in Hollywood when you had women, and they talked about this. They've had women that talked about how they had to do some of these things. Like they felt they had to sleep with these directors, the whole casting couch culture that they had out there. And they felt like, okay, if I say something, then I'll never work again. And they feared, they had a level of fear because of that. So that was a reason why, you know what I'm saying, like for modern, you know what I'm saying, they came through in modern times, because now all this stuff was happening, and you know, wanted you to, like, you know, listen to what women were saying and some of the things they had to go through in order for them to get to their position. It worked in their favor. But during that time, I mean, Bill Cosby got caught, but I guarantee he wasn't the only person doing that type of stuff. And if you listen to some of these stories, it's pretty obvious that he wasn't. Did you hear about Payton and Brady teaming up in New Orleans? Nah, I didn't hear about that. I didn't hear about that at all. And that wasn't said. It was more of a scenario situation where you know, one of the guys, I guess on ESPN, mentioned it, but it was more just somebody just giving their opinion about it, more so than it actually happened. Do you think Hill was used a lot versus the 49ers and the rest of the season. He's 33 years old and definitely needs to be used as much as possible. Well, when you find out that you have something that works, it's probably a good thing for you to continue to try to, you know, make it work. But hey, I don't know. But yeah, but I think they can need to continue to go with Taysom Hill. This multiple quarterback system seems to have teams on their toes because teams have to acknowledge the fact that Taysom Hill can throw the football as well. So I think that you need to continue to use that. And no matter who getting upset, no matter who feel like they missing out. Look, at the end of the day, if you are trying to make the playoffs, it's desperation mode right now. Every loss that you have going forward gets you further and further away from the playoffs. So you better start winning. I don't care who the quarterback is. Go Jameis. TJ, can I get your opinion on the top 2 or 3 things that needs to happen to the Saints this offseason to make them legit playoff Super Bowl contenders? I mean, that's simple right there, Hart. Number one is attrition. Like you got to win this battle of attrition. For the last couple of years, that's been the Saints' biggest issue. From the time Drew Brees was out with rib injuries, from Jameis missing the season last year with ACL, and also like these multiple injuries that happened over course of time with Michael Thomas and all these other key players that you needed. The entire offensive line last year was just completely wiped out, for the exception of Cesar Ruiz. So they got to win the battle of attrition. Number two, they need to change the way they play defense. Like I just think that you need to get yourself, those speedy guys. I don't think that it's a coincidence that when you start running certain base defense, you see guys like Caden and Ellis Eden. I think the Saints need to get smaller on the defensive line. I think they need to get bigger up front. I like David Yamada, but maybe you need to like go in a different direction, get yourself some bigger guys, that's going to be able to stuff the run, to go back to what you're actually doing. And also, I think that you need to tighten up that defense. You need to tighten up the defense. Get yourself some quality players and also some depth at those positions. You have to have yourself a good draft, or you can get yourself some young guys. And you got to hope that it pans out and hope that it works. The defense is going to have to be the calling card of the New Orleans Saints, because whoever comes in at quarterback, they're going to be relying on that defense in order for them to eat. And we see what's happening, when Jameis was having issues, when Dalton been having issues, when the defense is not playing up to its full potential, the whole team goes down. So you definitely need to tighten up your defense. You definitely need to win the battle of attrition, and you need to figure out who's going to be your quarterback going forward. Right? You need to see who's going to be your quarterback going forward, and you need to make sure that you put a good offense around him that consists of a good running game and some quality wide receivers. None of these project guys, none of these undrafted guys that might give you a little something, a catch or two. But I'm talking about somebody that can go get it. You got it with Chris Olave. If you're not going to continue with Michael Thomas, try to get yourself another wide receiver, another guy that if something was to happen to Olave, he was to get hurt, you can have another guy that can come in that can get 100 yards. It's like Gabe Davis, like for the Buffalo Bills. Okay, you want to double cover Stephon Diggs? You look at Davis, he gonna eat. Okay, now you're gonna run the coverage over here to Davis. Now Stephon Diggs gonna eat. So you got to be able to tighten up your team, man, and get yourself a little bit more depth. And I think that if you get those things right, then I think that you should be fine. And the last one is my honest opinion. I just think that you need to get yourself an offensive head coach. You need to get yourself an offensive head coach. I just don't feel like the way and the direction of the team going forward should be ran by a guy that is defensive dominant. I just think that if you have yourself a young quarterback, you need to have yourself a hell of a good coordinator, or you need to have yourself a hell of a good coach that could be a offensive coordinator. So those are the things I think the Saints need to fix, and that's what's going to put them on top. Let's see. I heard Lattimore is coming back. TJ, just wondering why you keep saying that we are all human beings. We are all not human beings. That's all. Well, in your mind, elite, uh, you know, that's your opinion, all right. But I mean, since I've been born, People have told me that, and everybody else around me have been human beings. What's going on with the Brad Favre situation? It's like it just disappeared. You ain't lying. Slavery was legal at one point, still doesn't make it right. Yeah, we talking about principle though, okay? Okay, but yeah, it doesn't make it right, but it happened. You know what I'm saying? What can you really do about it in 2022? Get yourself mad and frustrated about a practice that has been constant. Like, the only thing that you can do is change the behavior. It's just that simple. You ever had an argument with your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, or your boyfriend, and you might say something that you didn't mean, right? And it hurt them to their core, right? But what can you do? You can't take back what you said. The only thing that you can do is change your behavior. That's it. Like, getting upset and getting frustrated at things that happened back in the days and not understanding, like not putting it into the context of everybody, you know what I'm saying, during that time in the South, they were raised to you know what I'm saying, to feel like they're superior. I'm talking about, more times than not, when it comes from, white culture, they were raised to feel like, I drank at this water fountain, the black people drank at this water fountain, I use this bathroom, I use this service. Like, they were systematically taught those things. So for us to look at this with our free, independent, equality self, and not looking at it from, man, why didn't they do something about it? Well, if your grandma and your grandpa did something about it, 9 times out of 10, you probably wouldn't be here right now. So it sucks. Yeah, I hate that it happened. We all hate that it happened, but that was during a time where those things was acceptable. Now, in 2022, if somebody's talking like that, then, get them up out of here. But we talking about principle. Oh, that wasn't right. Of course. Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, hanging people from trees and throwing them in a swamp. Of course that wasn't right. Like calling people the N-word and disrespecting people just because of how they look. Of course that wasn't right. But it was a practice that was constantly done. You know what I'm saying? It was unfortunate. I hate that it happened, but that just was the world during that time. Surprised the Saints didn't sign Sue in the offseason. The only weakness I see for our defense is at the DT position. We're not getting any pressures up the middle. Yeah, I agree with that. Unless you send Demario Davis, because he seemed to always get home. Going to be a hard one. Them yards after catch boys out there in San Francisco got to be contained. Yeah, they gotta tackle the way they did against the Rams. The league isn't built for head coaches and defensive prowess. The league built for offense, straight up. Yeah, you got to be able to score. Got to be able to score. Because if the league looks at defenses being able to get, a step up on some of these offenses, like, they're going to try to change the rules to make it fit the offense again, because they know that people like points. Like, they want to keep eyeballs on the TV. Back in the days in the 90s, like, you might have a playoff game, the game was 13-10. Or, you know what I'm saying, it might have been 6-17 or something like that. Like, people ain't trying to look at them snooze fest, bruh. Like, people ain't trying to look at that. They want to see Patty Mahomes slaying that thing 60 yards. And so they're going to make sure that they give Patty Mahomes many opportunities to do that. Also say what you want about Jameis. T.O.'s, he also put up numbers. His wide receivers and tight end eat, and they all get paid. Yeah, I mean, look, some people, everybody knows, for the most part, how talented Jameis Winston is. Everybody knows how talented he is, but as long as he has his reputation and he doesn't shake that reputation or gets the opportunity to shake that reputation, there's always going to be questions about him, fair or unfair. Anytime Taysom is healthy, he needs 10 plus touches per game. Rotation between him and whoever's the starter for that game keeps the opponent on their heels and having to make constant adjustments. Yeah, Hart, as long as you get them involved. the game plan for the New Orleans Saints when they've been, winning or being competitive, is Taysom Hill, a bunch of Taysom Hill. Then all of a sudden, like when teams start jumping on them, you know, leading by 2 touchdowns, they just get them up out of here. I just think that you, regardless to what the score is, no matter if you're down, you should have some packages and involve Taysom Hill in your offense. Him and Alvin Kamara. I don't care. Like, I don't care if you can't run the ball, you're trying to catch up. Alvin Kamara can catch. Let's see. Right at TJ, we were told and taught that as well, along with all the other lies. Well, isn't the lies that were taught to you that you learned to accept still something that was taught to you? So if you if you believed in a certain entity, right? If you believed in a certain entity, then you have to come to that conclusion through research and knowledge to come to that conclusion. So if you say that we're not human beings, isn't there some literature that you probably accepted to say that we're not human beings? So if I say that I'm a human being, that's literature and research that I accepted versus, right? I'm just saying, like, you still taught regardless. Like, the words that you use in order for you to interact with me right now was taught to you. If you say, "Oh, I'm not really speaking English language," well, what are you actually speaking? And if you not speaking it, then I'm pretty sure whatever you came up with is something that you were taught yourself. So regardless, you're taught something. You're taught something to come up with the conclusions that you come up with. Rather you buy into what, I guess, what the norm is, or something that you read in a book or somewhere. Also, this season, he put some respect on Sean Payton's name to thank we being a playoff team by replacing Payton with the defensive coordinator and quarterback coach. Sounds silly in hindsight. Yeah, I mean, but they had us believing. Yeah, they had us believing. Let's see. Unlike a lot of the others from what I've seen this week, I think the Saints, let me see, pull off a win. They could pull off a win only if they can make adjustments and stop San Francisco's screen game. Well, we'll see. We'll see, man. I I don't know. Like, okay, just in case I can't get back and what I'm saying, I don't do a show until like Sunday. I have the Saints losing this football game. I don't think they're going to win, but I don't think they're going to get blew out. I don't. I don't think they're going to get blown out. I think they're going to play pretty well because here's the thing. The thing that bothers me about the Saints defense is not so much about quarterbacks that fit the mold of a Jimmy G. It's more so of those guys that have the ability to scramble outside of the pocket. Like the Saints defense is basically structured for guys that are stationary targets. Now, Jimmy G will scramble and move out of the pocket, but he is not a scrambler. So I just think that you could play a little bit more discipline and kind of pin your ears back a little bit to try to get past those 49ers offensive linemen versus if you're playing against a guy like Jalen Hurts, you got to take into account he actually runs. And I just think that that's a recipe for disaster in the Saints defense. So I think that the Saints can make it interesting. Jimmy G being a quarterback and him, based on like his style of play, it might can make the the Saints game more competitive. Let's see. I think the league is looking for more kickers who can kick it within that 1 to 10 yards as close to the out of bounds without going out. It's been interesting to watch. It's off topic, but I wish the league do something about kick returns, either get rid of it or make us use. But it's becoming real pointless to have it. Yeah, I think that's what it is, man. Like more people get injured, more players get injured on special teams. So I think they just try to find ways to try to eliminate most of the injuries. So they just make it where the guy barely returns it, and most of the time, like when they kick it, to me, sometimes I just feel like when they don't kick it out of the end zone, it's probably because the coach probably told the kicker, Okay, I want to see what the special teams can do on this play or something. TJ, you called it first about Sean Payton to the Chargers. Man, look, it's just an obvious spot. Like if you look at it, it's not that hard to comprehend or see. Like it's just the best spot. Like you look around the National Football League and guys and teams that need coaches are going to need coaches at the end of the year. I don't feel like there's a better spot or a better situation for Sean Payton, the Saints, or the Chargers. Like I think they all win in this case. I agree, TJ. I don't see the Saints winning this game Sunday versus the 49ers unless they prove me wrong again and shut me up and make me eat crow, which I have no problem with, Jerry. I have none, but it's it's interesting, man. I don't know. I understand the Saints won last week, but they're gonna have to string together a couple more wins for me to just be all invested in them. I just watch the games. I know it's a long shot because we're struggling against the run this year, but I feel a bit better knowing we have some starters coming back. Yeah. I mean, you can make it more competitive. I mean, if Marshawn plays, you can line him up against, Debo Samuels, or line him up against Brandon Ayuk. Yeah, it would make it much better. If you can have a guy like Bradley Roby playing in the slot, it can make it better. You got the Honey Badger, out there. You got Marcus May, but you got some guys that are talented, but we'll see. We'll see. That's the reason we are behind in most aspects on defense. We built it to stop the quarterbacks in the South, and weren't mobile. Nowadays, literally every quarterback is going mobile. It naturally becomes our weakness, and that's the reason why, Yella, I feel that once again you need to get more of these hybrid pass rushes. Like you have these big, tall, lanky defensive ends, but these guys they can't chase these quarterbacks. That's why you got to have a guy, like a TJ Watt, doing some of the things that Caden Ellis are doing right now. Like you have to have a guy that's able to do some of those things, because it's rather you're gonna catch up with the NFL, it's gonna pass you by. And the Saints right now, the NFL is passing them by because you're still trying to play that traditional, front four, big tall wingspan type guy. Like man, man, you got to have somebody that's gonna be able to chase down these quarterbacks, and the Saints going to continue to have this issue. Now, if you have some dogs on that defensive line, they getting home every time, and they have that speed, but the Saints don't have that, and I don't think it's a coincidence why we not seeing it. TJ, I'm always curious your thoughts of overtime rule for the NFL, but never asked. Keep them the same, change the college rules are different altogether. Well, I like the fact that they changed the overtime rule. Where teams can possess the ball. Both teams can possess the ball. What they'll score. I actually like that. But I also feel like in playoff situations, I think that both teams need to possess the football. Like if one team goes down there and scores, then I think that the other team needs to have opportunity. They need to be able to drive the field and score too, right? And then, the next overtime, if both teams score, if both teams end up scoring, then I feel like whoever, like get the ball, if they kick a field goal or they score a touchdown, they should win. But I feel like, and I don't care if it's a field goal or a touchdown, I feel like both teams need to possess the football. What's the compensation for Sean going to the Chargers compared to the compensation you think going to the Cardinals? Who offers the most? I don't think, like, honestly, I think that, okay, I'm pretty sure if we look at like the grand scheme of things, you'll probably get more bang for your buck with Arizona. Because they're not really good this season. So you probably get like a really high draft pick versus the Chargers, where I feel like I'm gonna be picking in like the mid-teens. But also look at, you also have to have Sean Payton agree to it too. So it can't be like, well, we seen, the Chargers and the Cardinals, and the Cardinals gave us the best pick, so here's where you're going. Like, no, I feel like it has to be mutual for all parties. So when it comes to like compensation, I say Arizona. But as far as like where I feel like he's gonna go, it's gonna be the Chargers. Because I just think that Mickey is gonna look at the fact that, okay, what they can get back, trying to get Sean Payton, away from the NFC, because you go from like, okay, if he goes to the Cardinals, you'll have to play Sean Payton every other year versus him going to the Chargers where you'll play him every 4. So I definitely feel like the New Orleans Saints are going to want to get him out of the NFC. So the Chargers to me is like the best spot. Who you taking, TJ Prime, JJ Watt, or Aaron Donald? That's a good question. I'm going with Aaron Donald. I mean, this guy is like so dominant, like from the interior position. Like you know, like this dude had 20 sacks from the interior. Like if you don't realize how hard that is to do, like the dude is amazing. I like JJ Watt a lot. JJ Watt in his prime was a monster, but Aaron Donald is like a whole nother dude, like a whole nother beast. Like from the interior, this dude is getting 20 sacks. Like that's insane. That is insane right there. I think Arizona might end up getting Sean, because Chargers coaches in a better stance, coaching wise, and Kingsbury hasn't proven nothing since he got there. Well, what is Stanley proving? What is Stanley proving with the Chargers? Like you got that talent. You got Keenan Allen. You got Austin Eckler. You got Mike Williams. You got Khalil Mack. You got Joey Bosa. You got Derwin James. You got J.C. Jackson out there. You got all that talent out there. Y'all boys can't make the playoffs. Y'all win one, lose one, win one, lose one. No, I don't. Like, I don't feel like he's in a better situation. And as far as with the Cardinals, like I said, Sean Payton to me would butt heads with Kyler Murray, because I just feel like Kyler Murray, there's a lot of questions about his dedication to the game. There's no questions about Justin Herbert. And I just think that Sean Payton would like to go to the Chargers. And I also feel like we also have to look at it from this particular standpoint as well. What's going to be beneficial for everybody? And I just think that when it comes to Mickey Loomis, I just think that he wants Sean Payton out of the conference. And, Sean Payton wants to coach a guy who is a franchise quarterback. You got all that. And then on top of that, I just feel like it would be more hurtful to the Cardinals losing their first round pick versus the Chargers, who already are an established team, losing their first round pick. Like with the right coach right now, the Chargers can be one of the top teams in the league, in my opinion. That's the way I feel about that. So I don't see him, like, if I had to choose, I'm saying he'll go to the Chargers. He'll rather go to the Chargers. But I want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. Let everybody know you enjoyed the State of the Saints podcast. You got previous episodes that are available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM. And you can also follow me on Twitter at TJAY Jones 8. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?